played against Tony, he's responsible for me not winning more championships.
There are some players that just never get the proper recognition from people, no matter how good they are, and Tony Parker is definitely top of the list in that regard. Despite the fact that Tony Parker has been inducted as part of the San Antonio Spurs Hall of Fame, some people still don't think highly of him. So today, we're going to be looking at Tony's career and what several NBA players have said about him. The accomplishments of the San Antonio Spurs cannot be overlooked when discussing outstanding teams from the 2000s era. A minimum of 3 championships in 5 years and a total of 5 between 1999 and 2014 would be won by this team. Tim Duncan, the great big man on this specific Spurs team, is obviously the first name that would come to mind, and with good reason. One of the key reasons San Antonio was so successful was because Tim Duncan was at his peak. And because of this, he is widely recognized as the greatest power forward in league history. Because of Duncan's commanding presence in the history of the club, it's simple to forget about the other people who worked with him to create the Spurs dynasty. Tony Parker is a person who has been somewhat eclipsed by Duncan's legacy. Playing alongside a future Hall of Famer makes it simple to be overlooked, and this is possibly the reason Parker may be the most unappreciated player of his generation, not only for the Spurs. Let's take a look at his credentials. He is a 4-time All-NBA team member. He has won NBA Finals MVP, 6-time All-Star, and a 4-time NBA champion. Tony Parker averaged 15.8 points on 49.2% shooting, 2.8 rebounds, 5.7 assists, 0.9 steals, and 1.3 triples a game over his 17 seasons in San Antonio. Don't forget that Parker's final few years in San Antonio, where his contribution to the team gradually decreased year over year, contributed to the decline in these stats as he averaged just 9.5 points and 3.7 assists coming off the bench in his final season. Tony Parker was one of the first players from Europe to play a significant role on a winning team that went on to establish a dynasty. It's safe to say that he changed the game for players in Europe. It was encouraging to see a European man achieve such great success who wasn't merely a shooter or a role player. He contributed just as much to that San Antonio Spurs squad as Tim Duncan and MANU GINOBILI did. It was a big deal for Parker to join a team with the consistency of the Spurs when he was selected by them in the 2001 NBA draft. He was a young, skilled basketball player who dominated in Europe, but we had previously seen European stars join clubs that didn't fully value basketball's global culture. Guys in those circumstances would have some difficulty or would need some time to adjust. However, the Spurs as a whole have had just as much of an impact on the development of European players and specific stars like Parker, Nowitzki, and Dražen Petrović. The Spurs demonstrated their capacity to win big with European and foreign players in terms of culture on their championship teams. In addition to Parker and GINOBILI, they also had role players like Rašo Nesterović and Fabrizio Oberto. Parker winning those titles with the Spurs, and Nowitzki leading the Dallas Mavericks to victory in 2011, gave talented youngsters from Europe a whole new level of respect. It informed the NBA that players from other countries were very much capable of playing at the biggest stages as well. The Spurs and Mavs winning titles were crucial moments for basketball internationally. It marked a significant improvement for the game. Similar to this, it was a big thing when the Toronto Raptors won the title the previous year. Whenever the title leaves the United States, it's always very huge. Americans used to call European players soft, with great haste. And early in his NBA career, Nowitzki himself had to deal with some hits, bumps, and bruises because he was a large man who was predominantly an outside shooter. But as a result of what he and Parker accomplished, players can now come to America and play extremely different from the usual, or come with a distinct style of play with the confidence that the fans will, at the very least, give them a chance to be recognized. Parker uses screens so well. Take a look at some of these games versus Memphis to see how often he repeats the play while waiting for the defenders to make a mistake. He was also a very good faker. He would go without the ball and then catch it into a ball screen on the other side. It's definitely very hard to find any other point guard that possesses the endurance and patience he possesses to run ball screens repeatedly until they are successful. And because of this, he's extremely dangerous. He also had the ability to hit a pull-up jumper and reach the rim. Additionally, he was a very willing passer, so the defenders could not simply swarm him when he drives. He was very good at finishing around the rim specifically. He had a devastating floater, a strong pull-up, and the ability to finish through traffic. He could finish with any hand, off either foot, and through any obstruction. He was also excellent at kicking the ball across the court and passing to rollers. Being so skilled made him difficult to defend, since you never know what he might do next. He was also really good at reading the defense and had complete awareness of where his teammates were at every point in the game. He trusts them to be where they should be when he runs the play, and this made Tony Parker really good. Overall, he was known for his high basketball IQ, and being coached by Pop sure helped this. Instead of acting out, pouting, or sobbing hysterically after getting picked on by Pop in front of millions of people on a regular basis, like many 19-year-old kids might, always paid attention to his coach, took advice to heart, and did whatever it took to fulfill the incredible potential that Pop first saw in him. A lot of players have claimed that Tony Parker was the toughest opponent that they've ever faced, and they praised his reading of the game and excellent defending skills. Kobe claimed that Tony Parker was responsible for him not winning more championships, and he also said that anytime he'd come up against him, he always tried to force him to make a mistake so that Pop could take him off the court. LeBron James also said that Tony was a very smart and high-engine player in one of his interviews. A whole lot of other people have openly commended Tony Parker, and the truth is that he deserves all the commendation, and a lot of people will argue that he hasn't got enough of it. What do you think about Tony Parker? Should he be recognized or forgotten?